Hey guys, today I'm going to be going over your homework that's due Friday. It's lesson 2, the Greek city-states. Okay, so the back where the questions are looks like this. We're going to save question 1. I would recommend you do this at the end after you've read the entire reading. So what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to read this for you and give you some ideas of where you should be looking for the questions, okay? So this should help out when you're working on this. All right, so let's get started. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so we have our vocabulary here. I'm just going to go over this really quick. So first we have myth, which is a traditional story that may be about gods and goddesses. Immortal means to be able to live forever. Aristocracy is a government controlled by a few wealthy or rich families. And a democracy is a government run by the people. So let's look. Our first question that we're going to be looking for, remember we're skipping this for now, is where did the Greeks believe that most gods lived? So keep your eye out for that as I read. Okay. Here we go. The power of Greek myths and legends. Remember, myths is the traditional story that may be about gods and goddesses. The Trojan War was fought between the Greeks and the people of Troy, a city in Western Asia. The story of the war is a blend of myth and legend. Myths are stories that may be about gods and goddesses. Legends are stories about heroes. Gods and goddesses helped heroes on both sides of the Trojan War. The ancient Greeks tried to keep their gods and goddesses happy. The war started when Helen was carried off from the city-state of Sparta to Troy. To end the war, the Greeks built a giant wooden horse. The Trojans thought it was a gift and pulled the horse into the city. Greek soldiers were hiding in the horse. They opened the gates of Troy for the Greek army. Homer composed 2 poems about the war, the Iliad and the Odyssey. Myths and legends were passed down by word of mouth. The gods of Mount Olympus. The Greeks developed many myths. Myths help them explain things that happen in nature and life. The Greeks thought that most gods lived on Mount Olympus in northern Greece. They thought that their gods were immortal or able to live forever. The Greeks also believed that their gods had special powers. The Greeks held athletic contests every 4 years to honor Zeus, the king of the gods. The contests, held in the city of Olympia, became known as the Olympic Games, which we still have the Olympics, right? So the Olympics all started with them. Okay. So, right here, where did the Greeks believe that most gods lived? Well, that you're going to find in that paragraph that we just read. So, in this section, this is where you're going to find the answer to number 2, right here. Okay? So read through this to find where the Greeks believed most gods lived. Next, we're going to be looking for what an aristocracy is, which is also one of our vocabulary words. So you can look in the vocabulary and in the section that I'm about to read for number 3. Okay? Democracy begins in Greece. Kings ruled some Greek city-states. In others, the government was an aristocracy. It was controlled by rich families. Around 500 BC, democracy began to develop in some city-states. Democracy is a government run by the people. The city-state of Athens was governed by the assembly. The assembly was made up of all citizens older than 18. Later, 500 citizens were chosen to serve on a council for a year. The assembly had to approve the council's decisions. Only citizens could be part of the Greek democracy. Slaves, women, and workers born outside of Athens were not considered citizens. They could not own property, vote, or testify in court. Okay, so you should have the answers to number 2 and 3 by now. Number 4 says, what does the story of the Trojan War tell us about the Greek attitudes toward their gods and goddesses? Okay. So we learned a little bit about the Trojan War in this paragraph. Let's see if we learn any more information here. Rivals, Athens and Sparta. Rivals are like arch enemies. Like if you think in sports contests, like if your sports team and this other sports team, you always play against each other and it's always tough matches and you don't like them, you could consider them their rival. So Athens and Sparta are rivals. They don't like each other. The citizens of Athens had to defend the city during conflicts and take part in government. The city-state of Sparta was a military state. It conquered other city-states and forced their people to become slaves. The army was the center of life. Only healthy babies were allowed to live. At 7 years old, Spartan boys began difficult training for a life in the army. Women in Sparta. Sparta expected its women to be strong and responsible. Spartan women played many sports. They wanted their sons to fight bravely in battle. Spartan women had more rights than women in other city-states. They could own property. However, they could not take part in government. Okay. So, for number 4, the only time it's really talking about the Trojan War is in the first paragraph. Okay? So you're going to look there for number 4. Number 5 is a critical thinking question. It wants you to evaluate information. So it says, if you had the choice, would you rather grow up in Athens or in Sparta, and why? So for there, you can look at this whole right side. Okay? So in here it talks about the kind of government. And here it talks about the ways of life and what life would be like in Athens or Sparta. So you're going to reread through this, or you can rewind this video and listen to this part again. And think about, would you rather grow up in Athens or in Sparta, and then tell why. Okay, so that's just an opinion question. And then going back to our number 1, compare and contrast. You're going to compare and contrast Athens and Sparta. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to write Athens on one side, Sparta on the other, and in the middle is like both, what they share in common. So you'll put characteristics of only Athens on this side, characteristics what Sparta is like on this side, and in the center is going to be the things that they both have or they both do. Okay? So that is your lesson 2 homework, and reach out to me if you have any questions. You can leave them in the comments, or of course you can talk to me in class. Great.